Trump's obsession. Even when he rolls out a new immigration plan, there's a report revealing that part of his focus was on micromanaging the design of the border wall. He said, of course, Mexico would pay for it. That's not happening. He wants tips that are pointed, not round. He described in graphic terms the potential injuries to people who cross over his plan for that wall, and also demanded that it be painted, quote, flat black to absorb heat, so it would potentially be scorching to the touch. At the same time, Trump's also allegedly preoccupied with how this fence appears. It's got to be beautiful, it's got to be tall, and he pushed back against allegedly confused engineers who said some of these requests were just functionally impractical. Now, my next guest, Barbara Rez, is a former Trump executive who helped build Trump Tower. She witnessed Trump's approach to business and his pettiness and his obsession, often with style over substance, firsthand.
As far as the public spaces were concerned, it was really top-notch stuff, but in the apartments, there was a lot of crap. The floor was the absolute cheapest wood floor you could get. It's funny, because I helped write the offering plan. They talked about packetry, marquetry, that kind of thing. It was nonsense. It was cheap tiles glued down. The kitchens were garbage.
Garbage. I'm joined by Barbara Rez, a straight shooter. She's also the author of All Alone on the 68th Floor, and she is someone who's been inside the organization, and we rely on you for your valuable insights. Thanks for being back on the show.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Garbage, you said in that clip.
It's true.
What do you see in the way that he's approaching the wall?
Well, it's basically similar to the way he approached other things. He has this notion that he will be judged by the appearance of the things that he produces, inadvertently. Like, that's his wall, so it's got to be perfect in his mind. And he does perseverate over things like colors and quality and stuff like that, absolutely. And at the same time, by the way, he wants it all for next to nothing. He wants the best that he can get, and he wants not to pay for anything.
Where do you think that comes from? I mean, when you're building a building, keeping costs low within reason is considered good business. What you're describing is a type of fixation on the look, a penny pinching. But then he wasn't penny pinching, as we've seen, as the New York Times has done extensive reporting, when he was buying up the plaza for an inflated sum, when he was running an airline company into the ground. So there does seem to be some distinction or contrast there. What is that? Well,
first of all, I mean, in terms of penny pinching with the plaza and the airline, he's not a great businessman. He didn't do a good job in buying those. As far as penny pinching with the finishes, it's just the opposite. He just decrees, well, I don't want to pay for this, and then you stumble around and try to do the best you possibly can. So it's not that he's making the decision or making the relatively inexpensive things happen. He's directing someone that can theoretically do it. But when he's on his own, he doesn't make good decisions. He doesn't save money.
You remember The Simpsons?
Oh, sure.
Sometimes it feels a little bit like a Simpsons episode. Let me read to you. It's okay, Donald Trump has become president. It says here that he basically was summoning the head of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, a serious job, and kept demanding the structure be both physically imposing, but also aesthetically pleasing. I mean, isn't that ridiculous? I mean, if it's supposed to be a scary wall, if that's the concept, why should it also be so aesthetically pleasing?
Well, for one thing, he doesn't understand the nuances of one versus the other, to be honest with you, at least in my opinion. And I don't think that, he has this notion that it has to be beautiful because it's something that he's creating. And then, like I said, he doesn't understand that it can't be one thing and then another. And as far as the Army Corps is concerned, or any other engineer or architect or any other professional, he doesn't listen to them.
He doesn't listen.
If they don't agree with him, they don't know.
And I only have about 20 seconds left, but since you always get to the heart of it, why are people so obsessed with appearance?
Why is he so obsessed?
Why are people? Oh, he's not the only one. He may be more extreme.
Well, I mean, it's what came first, the chicken or the egg? This is our society.
Well, I'll tell you what came first, Barbara.
What?
The chicken.
Oh,
it lays the egg.
That could be. Well, at any rate.
Well, Barbara, I trust we'll be having you back.
I hope so.
I find it calming talking to you, even when we're talking about difficult things sometimes.
Yes,
Barbara Rez, our special thanks. Hey, I'm Ari Melber from MSNBC. You can see more of our videos right here, or better yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel below. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate that.